Hi friends, it's Becky and it's time for another beaded chain necklace. And in fact, I'm going to do a beaded chain necklace, a bracelet, and some matching earrings. And the earrings will have beaded chain as well. And I'm going to be using some more of the beads and findings that we found in the what was it? Was it Peach Sorbet? That's what it was. The Peach Sorbet bargain bead box. This was the August bead box. A lot of our friends are getting the September bead box this week. I think mine is somewhere in the mail, so I don't have it yet. But I thought it was a great time for me to pull out this box, make some more things with it. And I also pulled some of my beads that I'm using for this from my companion bundle that I got. And this is going to be these Rosaline Drux. And then I also pulled some of the more white colored ones from this for some of my links. So from the bargain bead box though, I am using these shell beads that came in the bargain bead box. I'm using the links that came in that bargain bead box. They're already made up. So I was like, well, let's just use these and then add some more links to that. Also using these bicones, these apricot-y color bicones that came in that bead box. I thought they'd be perfect with it. Gonna add this peach charm to my bracelet when I get around to making it. And then for my earrings, I'm going to be using one of these lampwork beads in one of the earrings, well, and on the other one as well. And we're just going to put all of these together. And I've already done a lot of the work of creating some of these chains, making the links. I'm going to do a few of those links with you, and then we will assemble the rest of it all together. So I've done 2 lengths around the back. One of them is a little bit shorter than the other because I'm going to create those last 2 links here with y'all. And then I also want this to be a double-stranded necklace. So I've got one of my strands all put together, and it's just simple loop links using those bicones. This is just, it's one of my favorite basic kind of chains, and it is pretty and sparkly and easy to make. I am also going to show you how to make this double loop connector so that I can have a 2-layer necklace using one of these connectors that I've made. And then we're going to have our pendant that came in the bead box. It's this strawberry quartz pendant. That's going to be our main focal in front of everything else. So let's move these guys aside for a little bit so I can show you how to make these links. Now my first link is going to be this 3-point connector link so that we can have our double strand necklace. And the wire that I'm going to be using for that is 18 gauge wire. The wire that I'm using for the rest of my links is 20 gauge, and I'm choosing 20 gauge because 18 gauge wouldn't fit through the hole on the shell beads. So I'm going with the wire that will fit, but both of these wires work great with simple loops. You don't have to wrap them. You can if you want, but you don't have to. All right, so for this connector that we're going to make with this, it's going to be a little beaded connector. I'm going to start with some wire that I warm up with my fingers because it makes it easier for it to bend. I'm going to make sure that I've got this cut flush right there. And then I'm going to take my 6-step bail making pliers and I'm going to start making a figure 8 link. I'm going to be doing this just the same way that I would do a figure 8 link, by twisting this back so that the end here meets the wire. But I'm not going to have that break or that bend because I don't want this to be centered. It needs to be offset from the rest of it. I'm going to take that same loop, that's the second step down, and I'm just going to put it over here on the other side of my wire, and then bring my wire around till it passes right by again. Now if I was making a figure 8 link, at this point I would cut right here where it meets it, but I'm not making a figure 8 link. I'm making a connector link with 3 strands. So I'm going to grab my figure 8 bit right here. I'm going to pull my wire up so that it's coming up the center. And I'm just going to cut a little bit more of this off here so that I can work with it from the other side. See where I've got that? Pop this guy on here. And then I'm just going to do a simple loop on the top of this by grabbing onto my bead, bending my wire over. You can alternatively, instead of doing that, because it can be a little bit hard to bend that wire, use your pliers to do a little bend. I've got some chain nose pliers that I use for my wire working. And then I'm going to cut, actually, let's not cut it until after we do our loop. I'm going to use the same loop that I used for the other side and just use my finger to kind of push it around until it comes through over there. And right about where it's supposed to meet, that's where I'm going to cut off my excess. And then close that loop up with these pliers. And this is actually the last time I'm going to use these pliers when I'm making these, because for the rest of my links, I've been using my round nose pliers. But this is great to give me some consistent loop sizes for my connectors. So those are my connectors. That's where I'm going to attach the backs of my necklace, and then my top strand, and then my lower strand. I'm going to set those aside while we make our additional links. And like I said before, I've been using the 20 gauge wire. I am almost done with this loop there. Let me actually just pull this one out, because that way I don't have to have that coming apart like that. Once more, warming up the wire before we use it. And I'm just going to slide these guys down onto here because I like to work off the spool when I'm doing multiple links. So I'm just going to put these all on here. And we're cut flush on this end. Again, I'm using cut flush cutters. Got my chain nose pliers, and I've got my round nose pliers. And it took me a while to make all of these links, to make all of these chains. We're saving time now, but it took me like a good portion of my day yesterday, part of my day today. And one of the things that I used to help me shorten the time that it took is using my one-step looper. And basically, when I was doing this, I made my first loop using my one-step looper, and then I made my second loop using my round nose pliers. And it just made it a little bit easier for me to get multiple links made a little bit quicker. Obviously, if you don't have the one-step loopers, you can use your round nose pliers to make that first loop. All you do is just sandwich that there between your pliers and then roll it back towards the wire once it's touching. See how it's tipped off to the side? We're going to put this right below and give it a little bit of a boop, a neck break, whatever you want to call it, a bendy-roo, so that you can get your little loop on there, and that's the first loop. And then what I like to do to measure how much to cut off is just measure my finger width. And after you've got that first loop made, you can get ready to make your second loop. I usually like to measure against my finger by holding the bead, and where my finger meets my fingernail, or where my finger, yeah, right there, that's where it meets it. That's about 1 centimeter from the bead to there on that part of my thing. And so I like to cut off all but that part and use my round nose pliers to roll that up. And that gives me a second loop. And then I also, especially with 20 gauge wire, like to give it a smushy with my pliers because it helps work hard in the loop. And it makes your necklace stay together better. So that's one of my loops. Let's give this loop a little smush before we start bending it. I'm gonna hold on to the bead and my loop and bend that over. You can, again, like I said, use some pliers to do that bend instead, like this. Put the bottom of the plier next to where I want it to bend, and then just very carefully move that over in the direction that I want it to go. And once you've got that end cut off, roll it up with your pliers. And the reason I'm not doing my second loop with my one-step looper is because often you end up with a little more room on either side of your loop between the bead and the loops using the one-step loopers. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I just wanted my loops to be a little bit closer on those beads, and it's usually get a better curve on your loop if you use the round nose pliers instead of the chain nose pliers like I was using just there. Pro tip, picking up the right tool is part of the job. All right, so that makes my links. And one of the reasons I wanted to use the simple loops for this was because of the ease in putting things together. Because the simple loops have a loop that can be opened and closed. When I want to put together my links and put together my little necklace here, there we go, I'm gonna do that over here on this end. I just swing open one of these loops using my pliers like that, and then I can connect it onto that other link on the chain, and then do the same thing for this one. All right, so that's both ends of the back of my necklace like that, and then we'll have our double links right here. And then I need to do my chains for my lower half. So let's put together these guys. I'm going to use these pre-made links that we already got. I'm going to link them between these rounds. Once again, this one is just the bicones, and this one is the shell beads and the bicones alternating. So I'm going to swing that open, attach one of these shell bead links that already have daisy spacers on them. And I'm going to want 4 of these rosaline rounds for each side, and 3 of these shell beads for each side. Now, these links do have simple loops on the end, so I could be swinging them open, but I'm just doing it on the ones that I've already made. All right. There we go. So that's one side. Let's do the other one. Oh, looks like I've got some extra beads there. That's That's fine. Fine and dandy. And I've got to figure out how I'm going to connect the ends of this chain to here. I suppose we could both go in through here and connect that way. Or, hear me out, I could make a little thing up there. Why don't I grab one of these guys out? I made a decision. I'm going to make a little link that connects this to those two. So I'm going to just pull out my 20 gauge wire again, make myself a small simple loop right here. That's going to connect to this guy in a minute after I finish the rest of it. And then let's cut off about that much. Put this one on here. And I just want a little circle up here at the top. All right, yeah, let's do that. But I want it to go perpendicular to this one so that it sits correctly. Right. I want my loop to be a little bit bigger than some of the others, so I'm going to scooch down further down my barrel. And there where it crosses over, that's where I'm going to cut that. And the reason I didn't measure it before is because I don't really know how long I need to measure this for in order to get it there. I can measure that if I wanted to, but I don't want to do that right now because I'm in the middle of making something. There are ways that you can be consistent with that. And I'm giving this a very good smush to keep it from deforming or anything like that as it's being worn. All right, yes. This is what we're gonna do. Now I can connect the end of this chain there. Onto that loop. And then start getting these guys connected together and connect the rest of that chain together. And I just made this so that I can connect my pendant to my necklace a little bit easier. But yeah, making those chains, they do take some time. I enjoy like the zen of just repetitive motion, making the same thing over and over again in order to get to something like this. But if I was to record it, it would be like a 5-hour video with like no breaks or anything like that. So doing it off camera saves us all a little bit of time. But I've been thinking about maybe doing one where we do, not this one because it took a while for all of these links, but maybe doing one where we do spend the real time actually making all of the links together. I know that I have some of my friends who enjoy my longer videos where they can just hang out with me while I'm making things and they're making things. That might be a really good format for that. But let me know if you'd like to do a long form, let's start from the beginning and make every single link together type of video, because I could show you if I did that how I kind of assembly line it, where like I do one part of the length, the first bend on all of the beads first, and then once I've got a pile of those, I'll do like the next bend, and then we'll do loops, and then we'll do this and we'll do that, and it's one after another sort of thing for that. Let's get this connected here. But yeah, leave me a note in the comments if you would enjoy watching that type of video, because like I said, it would probably end up being a very long video, and I do know some of you will enjoy it. And I'm sort of in love with that. Another great thing about this type of project with all of these different links, especially with the simple loop links, is that I can subtract and add links as I go if they're not the right size or not going to flow well. But I think I measured and counted just right for that to sit and drape really nicely between the two of those. So let's get each of these links connected to my double link there. One side and the other. All right, so that's one side. And I'm going to connect this while I've got this out here for this side. There we go. Swing that open. I want, for each of these lengths, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 shell beads and 7 bicones, and I want the end that has the bicone on it to be next to this lighter color bead. So we don't have like a big cluster of white beads all together. That's why I've got this ending with a rosaline right between this light color bead, and then we've got these guys here like that. All right, so let's do the same thing on the other side with these guys and this link. Let me make sure this chain is going to flow freely enough. Right. So I want it to be able to drape nicely. Ooh, I need to open that wider because there's not enough space between the bead and the end of that wire for my 18 gauge wire to go through. So, and then this one right here. And I think I'm going to make myself a little hook closure using this 18 gauge wire. Yeah, let's do a hook closure. I'm just going to do a fit check real quick. And I do like the way that that is draping so far. Oh yeah, that's going to be great. I do a try on at the end of the week where I try on the jewelry that I've made. We do a little wrap up and chat. It's called What I Made This Week. So if you want to see it on me, I will definitely be doing that on Sunday for this. I love it already so far. So let me do a closure with a couple of these guys. Let's start with a flush cut. And I'm just going to make a really tight loop right here at the end of this wire, just to make a little bit of a P shape. Straighten that out with a smush. Then I'm going to take my bail making pliers, and I think this one, my third step down, is what I want to go around for my hook. And I'm just bringing it around till it's almost to the other side of the wire right there. And let's cut off this bit. I'm going to make a little bit of a bend right here. And put my bicone on there. And then I'm going to make another bend right above the bicone. Oh no, bent it too much and I broke my crystal. Bent it too close to the crystal is what I did. And it's broken. I'm just gonna, hold on y'all, I can break the rest of it. There we go. I think actually I'm gonna be a better success doing a loop. Straighten this out a little bit more. I use my one-step looper for it. But I don't want this to be too close to here, or I'll get the same issue that I had by bending my wire too close. So I'm going to give it a little bit of space. That way when it comes back around, it won't be putting as much pressure on here and breaking my crystal. Alright, so now I've got myself a little hook. I'm just going to clean up my broken crystal bits here so I don't end up with little pieces of glass in my fingertips later. There we go. All right, let's make, yeah, this one's just going to be another loop. So for that, we'll start with this loop. And then just do a little bit bigger loop on that end. And give that a smush. I've got a little hook and eye, and they've got the simple loops so I can attach them to the ends of my necklace. that is the necklace. Let's make our bracelet. For the bracelet, I did 2 lengths of chain, and I did 17 of the bicone links, and I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shell links with 7 of the bicone links, and it's going to be a double strand bracelet. And I've just got a little soldered link here that I'm going to attach both of these lengths of chain to. You could do a jump ring. It doesn't have to be a soldered link. I just like the look of it, and I like having a little link like that that can connect to. And this cute peach charm, I hadn't done anything with it yet, and I think it's going to be perfect to dangle from that link. It comes with its own jump ring, so all I have to do is open it, slide that on there, and close it. And now for the other side of this bracelet, I think that's going to be definitely long enough. For the other side of this bracelet, I'm going to grab a jump ring and a lobster clasp. I could do another hook, but I don't feel like messing around with that right now. It would be consistent with this if I did another hook, but let's just jump rings and lobster clasp. Woof, there we go. Now, one of these lengths of chain is longer than the other. So I'm going to, no, actually they're not that much longer actually. Not when I have them twisted the correct way. Okay, so they'll both connect there just fine. Open this guy up, put both ends of my chain through, close it up, and then use this second jump ring to connect my lobster clasp to that first jump ring. Okay. This will just give us a little more articulation when we open and close it. And it extends the size just a small amount. Why? Yeah, there we go. Do you ever wonder why can't I do things? Like this was so easy like a minute ago, and now it's difficult. There we go. Let's close that up. And then we've got ourselves a two-stranded, double-stranded bracelet with a little peach dangle. It goes just right with our double-stranded necklace. Ta-da! I love it. And now I'm gonna make myself a little earring that uses a little section of that chain and one of these lampwork beads. Now to get this lampwork bead connected to the end of the chain, I'm going to use a, where did it go? I just had it. There we go. A head pin to turn it into a drop. And this lampwork bead has sort of some big holes in it. So this tiny ball head pin will probably slide right through if I don't use one of these little teeny bead caps. and one of these spacers on it. So I'm going to grab one of these bead caps for the bottom. There you go. Turned so that the cup part of the bead cap is towards my bead. I'm putting it down with the dangly drippy bits downward. That's what it looks like over there. And then this is where I've got a very large hole on the top, and that's why I'm going to stick that spacer in there, because it'll help stabilize this wire. And then we're going to put this right there. And now I can make myself a little wrapped loop up here at the top. This is the only wrapped loop that I'm making. Once that's wrapped around, and hold on to the top of that loop and start twisting that wire around the stem. Until it's nice and firm and that's not moving around any. That's why we stuck that little spacer in that large hole to help stabilize it. All right, and now I can put together my little chain with one of my bicone links. Holding onto that dangle that I just made. One of my shell links. And then one of my bicone links. Now I've got a loop right here at the top. I can put my ear wire through. There we go. And there we go. Beaded chain necklace, beaded chain bracelet, beaded chain earrings. And I'm just gonna scooch these off of this bead mat and beadboard, because I think with these light colors, we're gonna see a bigger impact if I set them on this dark background. Just a little more. A little more contrast to just really bring them out. Are pretty gold and glowy. There we go. All right. So for the month of September, I'm making 2 beaded chain necklaces every week. This is number 2 for me. It is at least 2. I may do another one before the weekends, which is, you know, it is the weekend. So let's see what happens. But I'm pretty pleased with what I'm doing so far. I really loved this bargain bead box and all of the beautiful colors. I'm excited to get this month's bargain bead box as well. So we'll see what that entails when we do. I'll go ahead and open it up with you so we can organize it together. And I'll have some links in the description below to the playlist for my other beaded chain challenge videos. I'll have a link in the description for my Beaded Chain Basics, where we talk about the different types of links and wire that you might use. I also have a link to where you can subscribe to the Bargain Bead Box if you are interested in becoming a subscriber, because it is one of the best value for money bead boxes that is out there. It is always beautifully curated. There's a reason it's one of the most popular bead boxes that we've got out there currently, and it's because it's always beautifully curated and it is very reasonably priced. So I'll have those links down there. I hope y'all are having a fantastic weekend, and I will talk with you later. Happy beading!